what the way forward will look like. We have a new president-elect now in Nigeria, and Nigerians are setting standards and setting agenda for what he will do and how he will do them. And in the studio, I have Seun here, as well as Dr. John Ekundayo, and we have been making sense of some of the issues. Now, John, let's look at the issue of security. This election was seen as one of the most peaceful elections so far. Of course, there were one or two issues here and there, but if you compare it to the previous election, it was an election that a lot of people see as really peaceful.
Yeah, I agree with you. I voted in my home state, Ekiti State, and you know, the whole atmosphere was peaceful. And monitoring reports from other states as well agree that you know, there's peace everywhere, with maybe some skirmishes here and there, you know, some polling units, which is not unexpected. But then we need to give kudos to the security personnel in handling the situation maturely this time around. You know, we need to give kudos to them because, you know, hitherto before now, people have been afraid that, oh, if I go out on election day, there could be thuggery, you know, violence and whatever, you know, which, you know, we prevent them from voting. But by and large, you know, they stay away from the polling area unless, you know, maybe they could hear some, you know, noise or whatever, they will now intervene. So it's just to make sure that there is peace, which I think professionally we have to give it to them that, you know, by and large, at least on a fair scale, you know, they have done relatively good job as per the security this time around. So I think kudos should be given to the security forces. Initially, people were apprehensive, you see, and I was telling some people, I laid their fear that the military only showing what they call a show of force. When they saw them, some people say, we could see them, they line up, hey, this and that. It's just a show of force. But when the election day came proper, you know, people,
they were not involved.
They were not in case of, oh, they were harassing me or they were forcing me or whatever. No, you know, we used to have that in time past. But right now, I think for this election, kudos should be given to the security forces.
Well, the soldiers were deployed, and although they were very far from the voting areas, they were on the highways and all of that. I recall going to monitor elections somewhere around GRA, Ikeja, and on the way, I met some soldiers who were really friendly, you know, who were just, you know, they were in that mood, you know, to support, in case you even have any need, they were there to support you. And then they only ask you, okay, can you identify yourself? If you don't have the tag, the election duty tag on your vehicle, they ask for your identification, you identify yourself, they just check your car and all of that. But they are there just to give you the support, and then you move. They were all in that, you know, that mood of you know, that thing. However, the point there is, a lot of people have still said that when it comes to election, soldiers shouldn't even be on the same page that you have election. But one would say these are the realities that we have right now. But how would you assess the deployment of soldiers for the show of force that Dr. Ekundayo mentioned? It paid off, or we should keep them away in the barracks?
My hope would be that the normal security agencies, agents with Nigerian police should be able to handle our electoral, process in terms of providing security. And as a matter of fact, I hope that we evolve into a situation where election day is like any other normal day in our life, and hopefully we will get there. But having said that, our reality still requires that we demonstrate to people that their life and their properties will be, protected during that heightened state of security and election process that electioneering brings about. But having said that, also we must give credence to the parties and the candidates, because over time you will see that this particular election, the presidential election, was mainly principles and issue based. The violent rhetorics were much more toned down, and the peace accord and all of those initiatives to bring down the rhetorics about violence and all of that, actually then we see that it brought some fruit. So I think that should be what should be encouraged. The Nigerian military are typically very professional when it comes to electioneering participation. They tend to stay outside of the barrier. But we also, at this stage, must also realize where we're coming from. And the people's fear, like Doctor said, about military involvement is not out of place. We remember in this country where and how the military were deployed to subvert people's desires. Yeah. And that's really still in our mindset. But we're seeing that that is becoming less and less part of our democratic process. And we must give kudos to those, the president for at least demonstrating his openness and fairness in that process. And we can only get better with that. And hopefully, with the emergence of the president-elect, we will see better improvement in security participation in our electoral process. And it is very important that Nigerians must now imbibe that culture of engaging and undertaking their civic responsibilities, devoid of violence and any criminality at all.
All right. Now, there was one of the places I monitored the election in Jerry. There was this man who has one of the polling units just in front of his house. So he decided to bring out a canopy, set up a canopy, and then brought out some music instrument, played music for everyone, and then brought out drinks, ordered food to be cooked. Wow. So anybody who is voting in that polling unit, there was free food for everybody, courtesy of him. So it brings out this feeling of course, election can be like a carnival, like a festival. It was. In fact, those who were at the other units not too far from had to sorry, let me go and eat and then come back. That kind of, it was a great atmosphere, very friendly atmosphere, and that's what everyone feels election should be. Did you see anything like that from where you monitored and things like that?
Not really, but generally peaceful. But let me just comment on this, Mike, that elections are supposed to be fun. Mm-hmm. It should just be like Arsenal playing Man U, or it's Man City, like that playing Liverpool, and then you are expecting the result, and and I mean, it's supposed to be fun filled. It's a game, you see, and it's supposed, even though we know at the end of the day power is involved, but then it should be that way. It should be fun for everybody, and but another thing is some other people could look at it elsewhere and touchlight the matter for that and say, from which party is this man? Is he APC sympathizer or PDP or Labour Party or NNPP? It's like that. But at the same time, when it's in a congenial atmosphere, and then nobody is even saying, because you are eating this or because you are taking part of this drink, then you must vote this way. So I think I watched something like that in VGC.
In the last election.
Okay, it was the last election. Okay,
it was more prominent in the last election.
Okay, I saw the video, even of this one, but I don't know whether. But you could see the atmosphere there, relaxed. People are just enjoying themselves, and it's supposed to be like that. It's not supposed to be with acrimony, with all kinds of violence, and say, "Oh, you must do this, you must vote that." But let me say this: that be that as it may, INEC need to up their game somewhere, and that is the area of protecting our secret balloting. INEC need to improve, and some of our polling units, like we are saying, polling unit in front of the house of somebody, some of our polling unit needs improvement. Maybe in the next election, we'll get it right. Is it because the secrecy of the ballot in some polling units are not really preserved? You still have some people that want to pervert that process. That's an area for me I see where INEC to actually up their game in that particular perspective.
All right. Talking about the fun and all of that, I think VGC is known for that now. I think it's gaining prominence when it comes to people coming out to share.
Another polling units you emulate them so that on our election day it will be fun all the way.
Everyone would transfer their voting to VGC. All right. Now let's talk about education. Now, in the acceptance speech of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, one of the most prominent things he talked about was education. No more strikes. 4 years will be 4 years. University autonomy will be guaranteed. Credit and education loans and all of that. He talked more about education than anything else, apart from, besides the issue of unifying the country, people should work together, you know, and so on. Now, talk to us from the window of education. What are we expecting?
I think it was a very important intervention, and it was deliberate as well, because we know the importance and the place of youth in going forward. You know, they've spoken and they're still speaking, and I would believe that they will continue to be engaged. And there's no better way to harness the potential of Nigeria and the potentials of the youth than education, providing that certainty in their educational journey. And that's why Ashwaju took his time to speak to that. And I think the key initiatives regarding education has been well ventilated during the campaign, and they remain the fact that we will ensure that the timeline for studies are sacrosanct, and in doing that to achieve that is really to provide the necessary governance and leadership that particularly the universities demand. Another key issue regarding the education sector from a tertiary education perspective is, of course, funding, and from the student aspect, and that's why you hear him speak about student loans, so that to bring about some form of inclusivity in that regard. But of course, at the primary and secondary level, it will be a bit of much more rigor in terms of curriculum, in terms of access, in terms of teachers training. All of this will prepare us for the kind of society that we want ahead of us, building the right workforce that will propel us forward. And I think I am glad that there's particular focus in that regard, because in the last couple of years, I want to say that our leaders have paid lip service to the importance of that, that sector, and that's the paramount sector that any right-thinking leader will pay attention to. And it's just not about the physical infrastructure. The key element is the soft infrastructure regarding education. What are we doing about STEM subjects? Because if we're looking to compete globally, those key subjects in science, technology, and all of that are what we need to focus on. And it's not by happenstance. It has to be deliberate and focused.
Intentional.
And yes, and intentional. And so if we have a leader that understands that, then I think we're on the right trajectory. Okay.
Dr. Ekundayo, this is your constituency, and when it comes to the education, and so on, what one would say that the curriculum that we have inherited or we use over time has been the one where just go there, memorize whatever is there, remember for the exams, and then you pass. And then when you come out, a lot of persons have said that so many Nigerian graduates are not employable, when they come out, because they don't fit properly into some of the things that the society demands. Because, for instance, when we conduct auditions for graduates of mass communication or journalism, for instance, and they come out to the real world and then we engage them, a lot of them see what we say, what we do as really strange, right? But if the curriculum has been that within the institution, you already have been exposed to some things, like some departments in some universities already have radio stations, already have TV stations, where students are engaged in those things. When they come out, they become really relevant. So talk to us from the window of the curriculum, how to design it in such a way that people who are coming out are relevant to the society and the industries they are coming out.
Thank you, Mike, for this. I would just say that from what my colleague had just said, and from what Ashwaju also said in his acceptance speech. He was saying this, that he has heard the youth loud and clear, and I'm happy for that. But it's not enough. I want him to engage them. I'm a scholar in followership. You see, our leaders at times think they understand what we are thinking. It's better for him. That's the next assignment for him. That he needs to engage the students. He needs to engage the youth. That's very important. And then coming back to the curricula, that you mentioned about, now you find out that in those days, degrees are meal tickets. I finished from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, 1985. It used to be mistaken. Oh, when you pass out from here, you know, fine, you just go to the employment market. But right now, things have changed. Government are no more employing like before. In fact, the workforce is overbloated. So the curricular need, right, even from primary school, not even secondary school, need to be revamped. You know, I spent 4 years back they carry. By the time my children were in primary school, they could already do presentation, PowerPoint presentation. I was amazed. Graduates in Nigeria undergraduate could not even do that. By the time my other daughter was in secondary school, it was I know. So there are certain skills that they need to get from primary school. By the time they get into the GSS, you should have a trade, a particular trade. If you say addressing, if it's this, is that, to the a senior secondary school like that. Okay. We need the curriculum to be revamped.
All right, we'll still talk about the education system because that's really very cogent. Let's go on a short break. You're watching TVC Breakfast. We'll be right back on the program.